Here's an overview for Lead Project, which is a free project budget template or a construction budget template that you can use all the time for free for the rest of your life. So it's really good. So all you have to do is understand that this is a little bit different than your normal Excel templates, and the way that works is that an Excel template is always going to be a standalone template, and the moment you send it to somebody else, even though you've got your own cost codes, you've got your own construction cost codes, account heads, or chart of accounts, or whatever that you've got in there, the moment you send it to somebody else, they will start creating their versions of the same thing. But this works a little bit different. It has two master data sheets. So one of them is the master data and the other one is your contact master. And as soon as you've got these two set up, you only have to set them on once, and then no matter how many budgets that you create, they will all use the same master data, so that you can centralize and use Google Sheets as a database. So let's check out what these sheets are. So the first one is your master data sheet, and all it has is your company details. You can put in details about your tax code. Let me zoom a little bit in so that you can see what the things are. So you've got company name, you've got tax name. So if you are from Australia, New Zealand, or UK, they use GST and VAT. But if you are from US, all you have to do is select NA, which is not applicable. Select your tax rate as 0. It will have no impact on anything whatsoever. In Australia, we've got this thing called ABN, which is an Australian business number. If you haven't got that, now these things have no impact on your calculations, on your budget whatsoever. These are just some details that we use to fill out these company info details and so on. So we've got your company number. If you do have an ABN number, you can put those details in there. But they are there because in future we will connect them with lots of other things that you can do just within the Google Sheet and spreadsheet environment, and use Google Sheet as a database. So if you've got a company logo, for example, you've got a logo, let's say, which is a dark URL or a company logo that's dark. So for example, what that means is that, something like this, you've got, which is a blue colored logo. If you've got another logo right here, which is for to be used on a dark background. So say, for example, let me just paste that over here. Let's go here. You've got Lead Project. So the same thing for dark background and the light background. If you put those URLs in there, the template will show your logo all across the board. The square logo is there, but you can't really change that. You've got your address, phone number, email address. Now this is important because basically your unit of measurement, for example, in parts of the world we use meter square, and other parts of the world we use square feet. So if you use square feet, select that. If you use another symbol, currency symbol, for example, instead of dollar you use pounds or euro or whatever, just put those details in there and it will take care of all those things. So these are for the company details. We've got all your account heads, and in the subsequent videos you'll see that I'll go through each one of these in more detail. But we've got all these main heads, and we've got all your cost codes and your job codes and your stages that you can define. Now these are your master sheets. So if you look at in the whole scheme of things, what we are looking at is this data, because this is a centralized sheet that will feed in data into every budget that you would create, and so on. And the same thing we have as with our contact master. So this is our contact master, which has all the details and everything, and those details are then fed into all these budgets. So let's look at our sample budget. So all this is the way it is designed. It is so intuitive with the things that we do. The first time you'll create it, all your details and your setup things that you've done, if you call your tax name GST or VAT or not applicable, they will pop down here. Your unit of measurement will pop down here, and your currency symbol will come around here. And if you track your job codes with different short forms, like for example, for me, all the projects that I was doing, for example, 447 MS stands for 447 Main Street, Mordialloc, whatever the suburb was, and so on. So I would just simply go and select that. Now, why do I do that? The reason we do that is because I have a service which is Lead Project Plus that tracks your budget versus actual in real time. And we'll talk about it in another video, but the reason we do that is because we track all these things by the job code. So you can give this thing a try. You can click in the link in the description below and it'll all pop up here. So all the cost code and your cost heads that you've selected, they come around here, and you can keep on creating these to as large as you want, as small as you want. And there are dependencies that you can create. You can create your number of work days required for something like that. You can create your predecessor, for example, like this job can't take place unless it is dependent upon the first task or whatever. And you can define your start dates, end dates, your billing cycles, your payment due dates, and so on. And then with the press of a button, it will create a full cash flow for you. So I'll quickly show you an example with something like this. So say for example, we've got all these sections. You see 5, 10, 15, 20. What that is telling me is that I need to insert a section which is that big, and I need 5 lines in it, or I need 10 lines in it, or 15 or 20, and so on. So let's say you are not done yet. This is not, because this is all dynamic and it can be expanded to however many sections you want in your budget. You can keep doing that. So let's say we come around here, we've got this section, and I say, hey, I need another section for, let's say, 15 lines. So I'm just going to click on 15, and it's going to add another section below for 15. And I can say, look, this is about my site running cost. So let's say 1375. I select my main head over here. And then I'm not going to select each one of them individually. So I'm just going to copy and paste that as a from another sheet that I've got open on the side. And then I can quickly go in and put in values. For example, like over here, I've got one, which is, for $46,400. The other one I've got, let's say one of them, but about $7,000. And then I've got another one, which is for $84,480,000. So let's go one. So this is my allowance for site supervision or manager or superintendent or whoever I have over here. I can also do other things. For example, like, let me just zoom in a little bit again. Let's zoom in here. So let's say gas supply mains. And if this was something, let's say, let's look at something that would require me to pay something by length, width, and height, for example. So if I want to total something out, let's say temporary fencing, and I know that my length is about 10 meters and the width is going to be whatever, there's no width required in this, but it's going to be based on the meterage that I use, and I'm going to need maybe 5 of such areas, for example. And if I go and say use area over here, and if I select that as yes, the moment I'll say yes over here, that means the template is actually going to stop using quantity, and it's going to use your total area and multiply that with your cost or rate per unit, that whatever that you've allowed, and make it 50,000. And then right next to it, this is where the contractors can be selected. So if you select anything over here, whatever name of the company could be, and then add your contingency on top of that, it'll give you a total. Like, all these are basic formulas that are in there, but you don't have to worry about it. Even if you ended up deleting any of these formulas, the moment you add a new section, everything gets reset and the formulas come back. So you don't have to worry about other people changing these things. So you can add another margin of 5% on top of that, and you'll get your total. And this section is, again, if you are from Australia, New Zealand, or UK, you would have your VAT and your VAT amount and your amount excluding the VAT and GST and stuff. So if I was to change this data into my master data and go into my company info and select GST over here, put in 10%, And I know that, you know, I've been using GST, and go here, select meter square and dollar, come back into my stuff over here, and this will automatically update at the next time when I sync it. So I'll show you how that works. So for that, let's just minimize this, and I just want to give you an overview of how this is going to work. So if I was to say this 55 grand is going to have, whatever that task is going to take 3 days to work. And it can only start working after that crane or lift equipment's already come in. All I have to do is, in my predecessor, I have to pick up this line right here that says 15, and I'm going to put 15 over there. And in my lag, that means after that crane and lift is in there and it's left, it's going to be 2 days after that it's going to start. So all this data, all these dates are going to update automatically. Now this goes a step further, where you can identify what is your billing cycle. So anytime an invoice comes in, you can say, look, I'll pay you 30 days after you put in your invoice, or 15 days after you put in your invoice. You can put in those details, and these dates automatically get calculated and changed. Another thing is that you might think that this temporary fencing invoice could come in 5 times, or it could come in 3 parts or 4 parts or whatever. So if you select 4 or whatever, it will basically change all of these based on the details that you put in over there. So now I've just updated it. So I'm going to go and click generate cash flow, and you'll see that it's going to, whatever the total amount was right here that I selected for that company, it's going to split that into 4 different parts and say, look, whenever that delay is, so for example, this invoice is going to fall due on 11th of July, although it came in June, but you have a billing cycle of 15 days, and then you're going to span it across 4 different payments. So it actually splits your cash flow into 4 as soon as you click on generate cash flow. So, and this is, all these columns are dynamic because Google Sheet works, all the calculations happen in the cloud. And I've seen that when Google Sheets start getting quite big, they start becoming a little bit slower. And that's why we created this 100% dynamic, so that we only have enough cells, only the ones that we use, only the columns that we use, we only generate those columns. So that's how this works. And you can continue going down here, and let's say, you know, this is 46 grand, whatever it was. I can select the name of the company, whatever company that I select, whatever, civil test, whatever, and I add 5% contingency to this quote, and I add my margin 5% on top of it, and then I've got these details. But now let's say I know that this work, this labor hire or whatever that was, shouldn't be labor hire, but it could be anything else, but that is going to take, you know, 15 days or 10 working days. Now all these working days work based on the holidays that you've already identified here. So if you've got holidays here and you've got your weekends, so this automatically takes off the Saturdays, Sundays, and the holidays that you identify over here, so that you don't have to worry about any of that. And I can say that, you know, this is going to take 10 working days to finish, but it does have a predecessor, and the predecessor here could be the work that we do here in row number 30. So I can come down onto this section and I say my predecessor is 30, and you'll see that all these dates will automatically start changing based on the predecessor that I identify up top over here, which is 30 in this section. Now this section, the first one, is always going to be red. The reason is that this is the first row that you've got. And the best way to do that is have a predecessor for that, which is usually the end of the task that you've got up there. So if I change this thing to maybe 68 or whatever, all this can be independent. You can click on any of these dates and select a start date independently. You can allocate the number of work days. You can allocate the predecessor. You can allocate the lag to this thing, and then you can then go on and allocate your billing cycle to that thing, and all you have to do is then click on generate cash flow, and it will generate your cash flow. All your totals will keep happening up top. I'll show you why this error is coming in, because there are checks built into this thing, and these checks are basically for dependencies, and the total that we get on this side and the total that we get on over here, which would that error is basically because we haven't allocated $137,000 that we got here as a total across the cash flow, because the total here is going to be different than the total here if there are costs in there that we haven't yet allocated across the cash flow. So there are checks already built into this thing, and in the subsequent videos and all the other videos that you'll see over here, I'll explain all of these things. It has lots of other functionalities where, let's say somebody else in your company creates your master data, and you can then select either use your own master data, or you can select or you can link someone else's master data. So let's say you're a company manager and you want to control all the budgets and everything that people are creating. All you have to do is share that with other people in your company, which is as easy as clicking on the share button and putting in their email address. And the whole company can then use a centralized master data for that. And that doesn't mean that you go and delete your own master data and so on, because what this is doing is that anytime you start building all of these things, you just have to press the sync button, and it'll bring in everything that you've got. It'll sync everything the central company sheet is saying. It is going to sync that with your sheet, so that all the entire organization is actually working off the same sheet. So this is super cool. There's nobody else who's done something like this before, using spreadsheets and using Google Sheets, for example. And that's why I just wanted to make it free, and for people to start using it. It's super easy. And if you've got other things that you do, let's say you do create a budget and everything, I've got a service where we can track this project month by month based on your budget, and we'll talk about it in other videos. But this is a quick overview of what Lead Project can and cannot do, and it's a fantastic project budget template.